Florida's condo dream isn't experiencing a soft landing, it's breaking apart in real time. Not cooling gradually, not slowing predictably, collapsing systematically. Prices aren't off by modest percentages like 5 or 10%. In some markets, they're down 25, 30, even 32% from the peak barely 2 years ago. Owners who thought they were buying safety, sunshine, and guaranteed appreciation are now watching equity evaporate faster than it ever accumulated. Retirees who spent a lifetime saving for that forever place by the water are waking up to five-figure insurance bills, surprise special assessments, and a brutal realization. The market doesn't care about their dream. It only cares about the math. Florida's condo story in 2025 isn't just about real estate prices. It's about a system that ran on cheap money, underpriced risk, and the collective belief that the sun would never set on double-digit gains. That story is over. Today, we're counting down the top 10 Florida cities where the condo market is cracking hardest in 2025, and what it really means for anyone thinking about buying, selling, or holding. Stay with me to the end, because the number one city isn't just a local problem. It's a warning for the entire state. Before we hit the countdown, understand the larger structural frame. Florida's condo economy was built on four foundational pillars: low interest rates, cheap mortgages, inflated buying power far beyond normal incomes, underpriced insurance, and loose reserve rules. Buildings weren't fully pricing in long-term structural risk. Endless demand story. People will always want Florida. Short-term rental gold rush, Airbnb and VRBO promised easy cash flow. In 2025, all four pillars are cracking simultaneously. Interest rates doubled from historic lows. Insurance companies fled the state or tripled premiums. New condo safety laws forced buildings to actually fund real reserves and serious repairs. And short-term rentals went from goldmine to oversupply. The result is monthly ownership costs exploded just as demand cooled dramatically. Sarasota used to be the Gulf Coast fantasy. White sand beaches, ballet and galleries, high-end dining, gleaming towers hugging the bay. It sold an image, refined, cultured, safe. And for a while, the market believed it completely. Condos that once sold easily for $600,000 in 2022 are now struggling to move at $420,000. That's a roughly 30% price hit in less than 2 years. On paper, that's numbers. In real life, that's people losing six figures of paper wealth just by holding. Inventory is up more than 65% year over year. That means one thing: the market is saturated, too many sellers, not enough buyers, too much fear. But the real problem in Sarasota isn't just price, it's carrying cost. Insurance that used to be around $3,000 per year is now pushing $9,000 or more. HOA fees plus new. Reserve requirements are driving monthly obligations over $1,200 before the mortgage. Many buildings face massive structural and maintenance mandates, which translates into $20,000, $30,000, even $50,000 special assessments per unit. Retirees on fixed income cannot plan for a surprise $40,000 bill. So they panic, they list, and the market floods. Investors are doing the math too. Rental yields that were once in the 6 to 7% range have dropped under 3% after all costs. That isn't investing. That's charity. Behind the glossy marketing, sentiment has flipped. Realtors who once sold 3 units a month now chase a single showing. Developers who used to brag about sold out before completion are quietly cutting deals behind the scenes. Local banks are tightening lending or refusing loans entirely on older or underfunded buildings. Sarasota isn't just correcting, it's being repriced to reality. Just north of Sarasota, Bradenton was the value play on the Gulf Coast. Same sunshine, fewer headlines, cheaper buy-in. Not anymore. Condos that pushed close to $400,000 at the peak now sit under $280,000, a 30% decline. Inventory has surged roughly 70%, with roughly 1,500 listings clogging the local MLS. Why? Because the carrying cost has outrun the value. HOA dues in many complexes, $500 to $900 a month. Insurance that once cost $2,800 a year now sits above $7,000. Combine that with 7% mortgage rates and monthly ownership can easily hit $2,200 or more. Meanwhile, rents in the same area might run lower. So the equation becomes obvious. Renting is cheaper and safer than owning. Investors have noticed. Airbnb profits have collapsed. Occupancy below 55%. Nightly rates down 20%. Many short-term units sit empty more nights than they're booked. Pre-construction buyers, the people who put deposits down in 2021 believing they'd flip upon completion, are now walking away from deposits rather than close. That's when you know confidence is gone. What makes Bradenton especially painful is who it was built around. Retirees and out-of-state relocators looking for a calm, manageable, final move. Those same retirees are now looking at spreadsheets and realizing they can rent a similar place in the Carolinas or Tennessee for half the monthly cost with fewer unpleasant financial surprises. Ocala wasn't supposed to be on crash lists. No coastline, no hurricane-level risk, no luxury towers glaring off the water. Known for horse farms, open land, and more modest development, Ocala was the safe inland alternative for people priced out of the coasts. Yet here we are. Prices that peaked around $220,000 have slid to about $160,000, a 27% drop. Inventory is up more than 60%. Demand is thin. For households earning under $60,000, even a modest condo can now cost upwards of $1,300 a month before utilities with today's mortgage rates. That's not attractive when wages haven't followed. But the shock in Ocala is this. Even inland properties are being hit by the same structural cost bomb. Insurance that once cost roughly $1,800 has climbed toward $5,000 a year. New statewide reserve rules and inspection laws don't care how far you are from the water. Older buildings still need repairs. Special assessments, $10,000 and beyond, are landing on owners who never anticipated them. Many locals who scraped together savings to buy a first condo or investment unit now realize their asset is cash flow negative. Tenants aren't lining up, and rising costs outpace rents. Ocala proves a hard truth. You don't need an ocean view to drown. You just need expenses to outgrow income. On paper, Orlando should be bulletproof. Theme parks, international tourism, year-round demand. In reality, Orlando's condo market is getting hammered. During the pandemic boom, prices ran up close to $310,000. Today, they hover closer to $230,000, a 25% decline. Listings have nearly doubled, with around 3,500 condos sitting on the market. The cost structure is brutal. HOA fees often $600 to $1,000 a month. Insurance doubled since 2021 in many complexes. Assessments driven by Florida's new structural laws, $10,000 to $20,000 per unit in older buildings. That means a two-bedroom condo that used to cost around $1,800 a month to own can now push past $2,600. For many locals, that's simply out of reach. Tourism, which many thought would save the day, has actually amplified the problem. The Airbnb gold rush around Disney, Universal, and International Drive triggered a massive wave of investor buying. Buildings filled up with short-term rentals, not residents. Now occupancy is barely at 50% in many areas. Nightly rates are falling, regulations have tightened, and lenders are increasingly cautious about financing in rental-heavy buildings. The result is units that were purchased as cash flow machines are bleeding money. Cash buyers now demand heavy discounts. Financing is harder. End users aren't impressed by the mix of fees and transient neighbors. Orlando reveals the myth at the heart of many Florida condo markets. Tourism may fill hotel rooms, but it doesn't guarantee stable ownership. Cape Coral was the pandemic poster child. Waterfront canals, rapid price appreciation, out-of-state buyers lining up with cash offers. That fairy tale is long gone. Median condo prices fell from about $340,000 to $240,000, a 30% wipeout. Inventory is up roughly 95%, meaning nearly double the units on the market compared to the boom. Insurance is at the center of the collapse. Waterfront condo insurance, $3,500 in 2020, now often over $10,000. HOA dues of $600 to $900 a month are standard, with $20,000 to $30,000 special assessments for flood and structural upgrades not uncommon. Many retirees bought outright thinking no mortgage, I'm safe. But when annual fixed costs alone rival a mortgage payment in another state, paid off doesn't mean stress-free. It means trapped. Post-Hurricane Ian, something deeper shifted. Perceived risk. Buyers see flood maps, rising FEMA standards, and horror stories about denied claims and impossible premiums. Jacksonville was the responsible Florida story. Biggest city in the state. Port, military bases, corporate presence. Not as wild as Miami, not as speculative as tiny resort towns, and yet it's now deep in the same storm. Median condo prices have dropped from around $230,000 to $180,000, over 20% down. Inventory is up roughly 60%. Monthly ownership math looks like this in many cases. HOA $400 a month, insurance $4,000 a year. Mortgage at today's rates enough to push total monthly cost near $1,700. Rental rates in the same area closer to $1,400. Reasonable buyers look at that and walk away. West Palm Beach rode the luxury wave hard. New towers, high-end branding, the next Miami narrative. At one point, median condo prices broke $400,000. Now they're closer to $300,000, a 25% hit. Costs are where the real blow lands. Insurance on some coastal towers up to $12,000 per year. HOA fees that once sat in the $500 range now above $1,000 a month. Surprise assessments between $30,000 and $40,000 per unit to meet new safety and reserve requirements. That combination is breaking the retirement math in half. You have older owners on fixed incomes suddenly facing bills that would stress a high-earning professional. Tampa's skyline became the icon of Florida's new era. Cranes everywhere. Corporate relocations, remote workers flooding in. Median condo prices climbed around $310,000 at peak. Now they've dropped near $230,000, again roughly 25% down. Some high-rise Bayshore units that sold for $600,000 now struggle to pull $400,000. Inventory has ballooned around 85%, with roughly 4,000 active listings. The carrying cost structure is aggressive. HOA fees that were $450 now hitting $1,000 in many buildings. Near Bay insurance tripled to roughly $9,500 a year. Total monthly ownership can easily exceed $2,400 in a city where median household income is about $70,000. Aventura is the kind of place that never thought it would be on a crashing list. High-income residents, international money, gated communities, glass towers over the water. But the physics of the market don't care about prestige. Condo prices that peaked near $600,000 now hover around $440,000, a 27% slide. Insurance premiums in coastal Broward and northern Miami-Dade tripled in just a few years, hitting $12,000 a year for many units. HOA fees in luxury buildings are north of $1,200 a month, and state-mandated reserves and inspections are forcing extra assessments of $25,000, $40,000, even $60,000 per unit. Pensacola was never Miami. It wasn't trying to be. It was the modest coastal success story. Beautiful beaches, military base stability, southern charm, lower price points. In other words, it was marketed as the attainable Florida dream. That's exactly what makes its current collapse so significant. Condo prices that peaked around $310,000 are now closer to $215,000, a 31% crash. Inventory has surged roughly 90%. Sellers slash prices by tens of thousands and still can't get movement. Ownership costs look like this. HOA fees $400 now pushed to $800 in many complexes. Insurance often tripled to $7,000 plus per year. At 7% mortgage rates, that's over $2,200 a month in all-in ownership in a city where median household income sits near $60,000. From Sarasota to Pensacola, from Aventura to Tampa, the pattern is the same. Insurance exploding, HOA fees doubling, special assessments draining savings, inventory rising, buyers pulling back, lenders tightening, short-term rentals underperforming. That combination doesn't describe a mild adjustment. It describes a structural reset. Florida's dream isn't gone. The weather hasn't changed. The beaches are still there. What changes the cost of risk and the price of denial? The Sunshine State will always sell the dream. But from now on, the dream doesn't belong to the man who buys first. It belongs to the man who calculates best.